Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to For Those Who Want Freedom, Acharya International Psychology Summit 2023. So I was looking for a video called Freedom from the Lies. I believe that's what it was called. There's a reason for that search, but this is the closest thing I could find to it. So if this is not it, then I couldn't find it on Acharya Prashant's um, YouTube channel. But I hope this is the right one. Let's go ahead and get started.
Namaskar, Acharya ji. And you've talked of mukti. So I would like to know, is it a mukti from life and birth? Or, more if you can elaborate.
Mukti from internal compulsions. The goal of life can be talked of as mukti, which is liberation, which is also called freedom. So, if freedom is the goal of life, surely we are presupposing bondage, right? Without bondage, there can be no question of freedom, liberation, mukti. So, that's what the freedom is from. All kinds of compulsions.
I have a quick question though. If we without bondage, would we know what freedom is? We would know what it looks like, smell like, tastes like, or just the concept of what freedom is. Would we know it if there was no bondage whatsoever? Under the assumption that we were never ever in bondage ever. I mean, I don't know if this is hard to imagine because obviously I don't believe most people were never born without the bondage. So we're always in bondage. That's the only thing we've always known. But to obtain freedom, we would have to know what the bondage is to obtain freedom, so we know what our goal is. But I guess I don't know if this is a stupid question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Again, would we know what freedom is if there was never bondage in the first place?
Yeah, but that is again a superficial way of mukti. The deeper level, as you say, or where we read, that mukti from to be desireless, to be detached, and finally, like in it's mentioned in the scriptures. I mean, like you know. Through how to express it. To be the final ultimate goal of every human being, though we have been given birth, is to free from this cycle of birth and rebirth, and that is the ultimate.
It is not the next.
Is it? That's what is my query. Yeah.
It is not your next birth that troubles you. It is the bondages that you experience in this birth. Let the mic be there. She's communicating. It is the bondages that you experience in this birth right here. That's what troubles you.
Okay, sorry. The what I understood that, which was kind of interesting, because we all think about rebirth as in you're ending the cycle, but we are never ending the cycle. The cycle never. Well, I mean, again, Sadhguru talks about the 84 number, which is under the assumption that the universe collapses on itself, dies. This is not what Sadhguru is saying. This is my assumption of what it means, but like dies, collapses, or unifies to one when there is now nothing, and then explodes like the Big Bang to create the universe again. And then that's where perhaps we truly no longer have the cycle of rebirth. Once, and this is, I think Sadhguru talks about how it's once all karma has been expended, it all collapses on itself, and then when it explodes, all the karma kind of comes back again. Don't quote Sadhguru on this one. This is me trying to understand his interpretation, if I remember it correctly. So it's all my fault if it's wrong. But and this one is interesting because I always thought, most people have always said, is to be free from the rebirth cycle, but if we are all truly one consciousness, we are never free from the cycle. Never ever. I don't remember if I've said this before or not. Probably not, maybe once, but I don't quite remember. So, and it's interesting when he ever said it, it made me think a little bit more, is the fact that you're not really freeing yourself from the cycle because we have no choice but to be reborn back in the cycle because we are the one consciousness. So we are truly never free per se, but we were always free. How does that make sense? We were always part of the cycle. We were always free. It's just that we have the illusion of bondage. I think that's perhaps what I meant. We were always going to be reborn into this world because we are it. We are consciousness. And this is how I'm understanding Acharya Prashant here, is the fact that he's saying that you're not worried about your rebirth, you're worried about your birth now, your samsara now, your suffering now. To be because we don't remember our previous, if again, I don't believe in rebirth, but if you do, and I'm using my mind to say put myself in that perspective, is that for me, if I do believe in rebirth and that I don't remember my past. Right now my mindset is that I believe in rebirth. I don't remember my past. I don't care about my past. My past is my past. Don't get me wrong. If I believe in also karma from the past, that means I have to worry about that. But the way to get rid of that is by enlightenment on this life. If I am enlightened, all my suffering is gone. And then maybe I get reborn in the next life. Again, I would not remember this life. My future life will not remember this life. And maybe the cycle starts all over. It's cyclical. Again, I'm making an assumption here, but that's how I'm understanding it. Until perhaps all the karma has been expended, then the universe can contract and then explode again. I don't know. That part's my theory. It's again about Sadhguru talking about 84 big 84 number. He said number 84. My assumption was that, and I believe that perhaps the universe has contracted and expanded many times. Something that I thought about slightly before watching this videos, because we only think of one Big Bang, but it's like when people said, well, the universe is going to either infinitely expand or it's going to eventually contract. And I thought, if it contracts, would that mean that it goes to a singularity again, then explodes and expands again? And then when Sadhguru talks about 84, it's like, holy crap, has there been 84 Big Bangs that happened here? But then I think Sadhguru also said there's an upper limit. I don't remember what that number was, but I guess that might be the last Big Bang.
Who's experiencing troubles related to the next birth? Please tell me. And
No
all
one.
of us indeed do have troubles. What are your troubles about? Here, this.
Yeah,
So
now.
that's the compulsion we carry to entertain troubles, to not to drop them, to think that we are helpless in the matter of troubles. So that's what liberation is. Liberation is not about the previous birth or the next birth. Liberation is freedom from the bondages that you experience right now. And the experiencer of the bondage is herself the bondage. There is no objective bondage. The one who experiences bondages is herself in illusion. So
Wow.
you could also put it as freedom from illusion or ignorance.
Wow. When I said wow, I thought of something. The fact that he's saying that we're essentially we are the bondage. It made me think of Swami Sarvapriyananda talking about our ego, and our ego being the bondage. How our ego is so attached to identities, whether you're saying you're American or European or African or Asian or Pacific Islander. And then those are identities, and those can, in my opinion, those can be bondages, but they don't have to be. So what I mean by that is that when we have identities, those can be for good or for bad. Yeah, in the United States right now, identity politics is terrible because we don't look at it in the way of understanding or appreciation, but more it seems like as a weapon. So, for example, what I mean by it can be for good, say I'm an American and I've never been to any other country. Someone from, let's say, South Africa comes over and he says, "Oh, I'm from South Africa." I'm like, "That's really cool. I've never been there. Let me know about your culture, your people, your place." It's a way to bond and experience with people. But the exact same thing could be like, "Oh, you're South African. You're not American. You need to get out of this country. You need to get out of here. You don't belong here." That's another way of looking at it, as a bad way of looking at identity. Identity separation versus, say, getting to know someone. And these identities stem from even simpler things as how you identify, or whether you're a man or a woman, or whether you're black or white. All these little tiny identities. Even though being black or white really is completely and utterly meaningless because it doesn't tell you anything about yourself. Because you're black doesn't mean you have the same experience as every other black person in the entirety of the planet. I'm sorry, even white people, even Asian people, even Hispanics, even whatever else are out there, Martians, I'm sure. But you get my point, is that because you're black doesn't mean you have the same experience. So your blackness or your whiteness or your semi-tanness or semi-brownness doesn't really tell who you are as a person. And an identity that's used as a weapon. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going off track here. I am so sorry. Identity politics is terrible in America, and I'm sure it's probably going on in India too. I don't know. I've heard some things. I just don't know if it's bad or not, or whether. Hopefully it's not. But good Lord.
We do not know who we are. Therefore, we feel obliged to keep suffering trouble. Right? Once you put on some random, dubious, fake identity, you'll have to do everything that the identity demands of you. Correct? None of these identities is real. And therefore, the compulsions attached to those identities are not obligatory. That's liberation.
I am so sorry. I talked for a lot. We only are 4 minutes in, and I'm looking at 12 minutes of recording. Oh no. I'll try to keep quiet now. I'm terrible.
डिजायर जब फिनिश हो जाएगा तो कुछ बचेगा नहीं.
Question is, how is life with desires?
Yeah.
No, wait. You're asking how would be life without desires? That's too much of speculation. Shouldn't the question be, how is life with desires? How is life with desires? And when you see that, then you say, whatsoever is the alternative is acceptable. Anything but this. Also, a state of desirousness is a state of ignorance. We do not know who we are, therefore we desire for the wrong entity. See, our desires never fulfill us. What does that mean? That means our desires are for somebody else. Metaphorically put. You're doing something that does not fulfill you, so surely the fruits of your action are benefiting somebody else. They are not benefiting you. So you do not want to rush after these desires. You say, fine, stop these. And I am in a state of ignorance when I am desirous. In this state of ignorance, if I try to speculate how life would be without desire, what would be the quality of my speculation? I'm drunk, let's say. I'm drunk. Huh? I'm drunk. In this state, I cannot make head or tail of anything. Correct? And you come to me and preach the virtues of abstinence. You say, don't drink. And in my drunken state, I say, But I want to understand what would be the benefits of not drinking. What is the problem with this question? What is the problem with this question? It comes from a drunken state. In a drunken state, I am asking, what would be the benefits I will get if I do not drink? Sir, even you will know, but please get sober. So in a desirous state, I ask, what would be the benefits of dropping desire? No answer would be relevant. How do we navigate through what?
So real quick, I guess it kind of makes sense. So basically, how will you know what it's like to be in an undesired state if you're never going to get there? So there's no point in the question until you actually do it and obtain that state, I believe.
Okay, so basically, I'll expand it on your example. I'm drunk, and instead of asking, what are the benefits of not drinking, I'm asking, how do I navigate it? Like, how do I?
You just stumbled. Look at your knee. That's how you navigate. You're drunk. So what happens to you? What happens to you when you're drunk?
You're not walking straight.
Yeah. And then you?
Fall.
And you?
Suffer.
Fall.
And you bleed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at your knee. That's how you navigate. Look at your pain. Acknowledge your suffering.
There you go. So basically, I think from that point, what I understood is the fact that, you asked what's kind of what is it like to not have desires? Like, well, you won't know until you get that point. Well, you won't know until you get that point. But what am I missing out on? It's like, well, look at yourself. Are you suffering now? It's like, well, yes, I'm suffering. So therefore, in this drunken state or the state of wondering what non-desires are like, you see that you're suffering in this state. So why not try to be in a non-desired state? That's how I understood that example. It's the fact that when you're drunkard, you're never in balance. You're always stumbling. You're hitting things, and you're bleeding. You're like, man, I wonder what it's like to be not drunk. Oh, I'm so cut up and everything. It's like I don't know. Maybe should I not be drunk? And like you keep stumbling and harming yourself. So you should realize that you're suffering when you're drunk because you're causing physical harm to yourself, and you should understand. I guess the point is that you have to understand that you are causing harm to yourself, or that you're suffering, that you need to get out of suffering. So therefore, in a desired state, you're suffering. So to not suffer, you have to get outside of a desired state, because desiring state, clearly you're suffering.
So, like, suffering is, like you said, fulfilling life. So, but suffering is fulfilling.
Acknowledge. Don't inflict. Acknowledge.
Okay.
There is a difference between creating suffering and acknowledging that you are already suffering. And that's hard, right? And that's the reason most people prefer to rather live false lives. Because if they acknowledge their real state, it pains. It's like being out of sedation. When you are sedated, you don't feel pain, right? Or when you are anesthetized, you don't feel pain. So people choose to remain on sedation, on tranquilizers, on such things.
Pain, yeah.
So, if I.
Oh, real quick, like drugs and alcohol, people who are suffering, they drink themselves until they don't suffer, and they're in this intoxicated state. Great example right there, to drink away your pain, or to take drugs so that you don't suffer from your own mind, but also for the actions or whatever's going on.
I acknowledge the pain. What do I do then?
Then there is a natural thing within you that seeks joy and will drop pain. We are not born to live in pain. Our nature is joy. And that's the reason why we all rush towards that poor proxy called happiness. Because happiness, to an extent, seems like joy. In both joy and happiness, there is an absence of sorrow. So we rush towards happiness because it appears a bit like joy, though happiness is not at all joy. Happiness is just a shady cousin of sorrow. But we rush towards it because it looks like joy. So your nature is joy. The moment you acknowledge pain, you'll find yourself dropping it.
I don't. I do wonder if I could ask him, like, I do wonder what he's means his definition of joy. I wonder if he means contentment, because I think maybe contentment's not like a very exciting word. It's like, oh, content. You're just content. It's like, yeah, that's pretty freaking good. I'm not suffering. But I guess I don't know if they're using like bliss and joy as words to hopefully get people to like, man, I want to be bliss. I want to be in joy. I don't want to suffer. I like the word content because at least that's to me what it seems like. You're not, happy. You're not ecstatic. You can be, but you're not suffering either. You're in a balanced state, I suppose.
Okay, understood.
And in that lies your
She doesn't
freedom.
understand.
In that lies the power of choice. You can drop your pain. And pain is not compulsory. You are not mandated to live a life of suffering. If you suffer, that's a choice you have inflicted on yourself. And you can reverse that choice. We all have the liberty, rather an internal obligation, to bring ourselves to a joyous state, a state of complete bloom. That's what we are born for, right? You look at a flower. How do you feel about a flower that remained a bud or got nipped in the bud or flowered but incompletely? You don't feel good, right? You want it to bloom fully. That's what is the purpose of life. Full bloom. And it's therefore quite tragic if we pass away without expressing ourselves, blooming fully, actually living, reaching your utmost potential, dropping your last bondages.
Okay, I have another question. I'm really sorry about this, but
It's okay, it's okay.
yeah, it's related to this. So, we were talking about desires and how it should, like, we should live without desires. And like, my desire can be like, I want to be the most excellent person, yeah, the best person in this field. So it is a desire, and it kind of contradicts it, because my life won't have any meaning without.
No. Dropping desire is not the objective. When you are an unfulfilled person to begin with, how can you not have desire? The thing is to have a sane desire. I'm sick. My desire should be for a doctor,
Okay.
not a dancer, not a joker. So desire the right thing. Desire the right thing and have an intense desire for the right thing. Wisdom is not about being desireless in the first go itself. No. We all rather need desire. But we need desire that proves good, that's of some utility. If your desire ends up troubling you all the more, what good is the desire?
Exactly. I was gonna say there's nothing wrong with desire. I don't know if it's gonna go in this. This is my opinion. There's nothing wrong with desire. There's nothing wrong with wanting stuff. The problem is if you suffer because of the desire or you suffer because of the wanting, then it's not a good desire or not a good want. Or maybe it is a problem of you. Meaning that, for example, I desire to be the CEO of Walmart. And I work hard at it. And then I never get promoted. and then I suffer. It's like, man, that's what I want, and I didn't get it. I can't believe it. I am suffering because of my desire. My way of looking at this, so that I don't suffer my desire, I want to be the CEO of Walmart. I work hard and do everything I need to do to try to get it, but I don't get it. It's like, well, I just wasn't good enough, but that's okay. I did my very best, even though it wasn't good enough. I am perfectly okay with it. Clearly, I wasn't meant for that position. I should understand that it is not meant to be, or that there's someone better qualified. Again, then I seek a different whatever else I may be seeking, but I do not suffer from a desire. It's a bit hard to, perhaps it's a bit hard to see it that way. I see it that way. Now, is it absolutely right? I'm not sure. So far, I will say that obviously in my hobbies, I want to win. I never win. Not never win, but I mostly lose, but I have so much fun. I have total enjoyment. I don't suffer from my losses. As a matter of fact, I think to myself, what's wrong? What did I do wrong? And I'll use it as a learning experience to better my stuff, my list, or myself. I look at it's sadly enough, you look at failures. People suffer from their failures. But if you can look at your failures as opportunity instead of suffering, you will have a better outlook in life and you will suffer less.
You can be a slave to the desire if it's the right desire. In fact, you must be a slave to the right desire. Desire rightly and immerse yourself totally in your desire. Give yourself up, surrender.
Sir, my question is how we control our emotions in a difficult situation and we maintain our life and peacefully.
Ma'am, mostly our emotions are not our own. They are so pattern based. So pattern based. If you just recall what made you angry the last time, just the recall will make you angry again. Just try to recall what embarrassed you the last time. Just the recall will embarrass you again. There is nothing but a pattern. So they are not your emotions. It's like having a button that anybody randomly can come and just push.
Is there any spiritual practice to control our emotions?
Just tell yourself, that's not me, that's not my emotion.
My emotion.
Address yourself not...
I need your suggestion actually.
That's a suggestion. Address yourself not as I, but as, let's say, Manju. What's your name, please?
My name is Shoma Lahiri Malik.
Fine. So, Shoma, address yourself by your name and say, Shoma, you are at it again. It's happening again. And it's not you, it's automatic. Let it happen. You don't need to participate. You don't need to participate. Let it happen. You don't need to be a part of it. If it's prakritik, if it's hormonal, if it's bodily, it will happen. What can I do? It's bound to happen. It's a part of my physical constitution. But I need not participate in the happening. I'll stay at an arm's length and just see what is happening.
My suggestion also, again, you could use both. Maybe my method, maybe his method, maybe not mine. The way I do things is I understand. That's what I try to do. When you can understand things, it becomes less frustrating. When you understand, say, for example, normally I have talked too much. Anyways, if someone were to punch you in the face, you get mad, right? It's like, why'd you punch me? But then you realize that you punched him in the face and he said he'll get back to you, and you're like, oh, I forgot. I now understand why he punched me. Like, well, I deserved it. We're even now. We're cool. Boom. Great example, right? Being punched in the face. But you get what I'm trying to say. Is hopefully when you understand the situation, when you understand why you're getting mad, or when you understand why the situation's making you mad, it, generally speaking, will be less frustrating, less suffering. I don't know. I don't know if it's completely out, but for me, generally speaking, I completely do not suffer from the situation. There are some that I still do, but those are tend to be stronger emotions. But generally speaking, whenever I don't get frustrated a lot or very easily because I understand the situation. Now, if someone randomly calls me a name and they don't know me, I'm like, well, I don't know that person. He doesn't know me, so clearly he's just saying that out of his butt. he don't know he doesn't know who I am, and he's just saying that because he doesn't know who I am. And he's mad at something. I feel sorry for the dude.
Sometimes other stimulus are disturbed us, na? Outside
Yes,
stimulus.
there is disturbance, but not to you.
And in this situation, how we control our emotion?
Same way.
It is also my question.
How can it be difficult to see that it's all so mechanical? There is a word that you despise. There's a word that you despise. Let's say, I abhor being called ugly. After the 10th time I am called ugly, I should become impervious to the word ugly. I should become totally non-reactive, indifferent. Because now I know what's happening. Okay, ugly, thank you. I mean, I have seen how the whole thing operates like an electric circuit. Right? There is the switch. Tuck, to. This is so obvious and so foolhardy. How long can I participate in this? So after a point, one just drops out and says, I don't see any point being a part of all this. In fact, if you want to play a game with yourself, predict yourself. Predict yourself. For example, you know somebody you are totally mad on is going to come to you, and you are already steaming hot. You are very angry. And now the doorbell rings, and you tell yourself, now you know what will happen. I'll open the gate and shout. Predict yourself. The more you see how predictable you are, the more you see how mechanical you are. Because only machines can be predicted. Only machines can be programmed. If you can predict your behavior, your reactions in advance, then you know that you are just a lump of chemicals, hormones, circuits. And that's not what consciousness is. Consciousness is supposed to be free, right? An electric circuit is not free. Chemical reactions are not free. Sodium and potassium cannot decide whether to react with water. They are constrained to react. Do you want to be just a chemical? A chemical that is obliged to act in certain ways? No, where is freedom then? Predict yourself. Predict yourself and then defy the prediction. So I was supposed to be angry. I didn't get angry. 1-0. Self 1, hormones 0. So keep the score.
Ooh, oh, that looks like it's over with. Oh, never mind. Hold on. So the way I look at that is actually is that it's a little bit. I don't know if it's going to help a lot of people. Maybe, I don't know, very few. But let me go ahead and say it just in case it does. The way I look at it is, when someone says something and it offends someone, and then I look at it, does that offend everyone? Just me? Just a few people? And if it's just me or a few people, why doesn't it offend everyone else? And I think it's like, well, if it doesn't offend everyone else, why is that? Because maybe it doesn't apply to them. Could very well be. Then why don't I use that method? It still doesn't apply to me then. Maybe it does, but I could say it doesn't. It's kind of it's a very weird way I look at it. Is that it's just that if there's something that someone does and one person or two people or 100 billion people, no, not 100 billion, we only have 7 billion on this planet, so 1 billion people get offended by it, but the rest of the world doesn't. I want to be like the rest of the world. I don't want to be offended by it. If one word can get everyone offended, well then I can't. There's no other way of not being offended. That word must mean something really bad. So that's kind of the way I look at it. If someone says something to me that offends me, but someone else out there, when they hear those exact same words, don't get offended, I want to be that person. And how do I be that person? Just by not being offended by it. Again, it's ridiculous, it's stupid probably, but maybe someone out there understands what I'm talking about. That's the way I look at it. And it worked out on some occasions. And it's mostly understanding though. Mostly understanding. Someone said something offensive to me and they don't know me. I used to understanding that they don't know me, so what they say means nothing. If they know me and they say something offensive, then something's gone wrong. I need to figure out what's wrong and try to solve the problem. So I don't look at it as in them intentionally offending me, but something went wrong somewhere and I want to fix the problem. So it's never a situation where I'm offended by someone, because if they don't know me, then I don't care. They have a problem and it's their problem. They're just voicing it out. And if it's someone I know, then something clearly went wrong and we need to figure things out. I think those are the only two situations.
So the hormones are imbalanced. I am not imbalanced. Huh? I'm not my body. So how can I be the hormones?
I talk way too much in this video. Holy crap, I doubled the length of the time almost. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this, because I've talked way too much. For those who want freedom, again, I don't think this is the right video. Clearly it's not the right video, because this has nothing to do with lies, I believe. But anyways, I tried to look for it, couldn't find it. If you like my content, please subscribe and thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.